5 to Tampa. Hi, Tampa. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Oh, yes. Hello?
Hi.
Oh, yes. Okay. I believe in what Lassiter was saying, but...
I am Lassiter, sir.
Okay. There's still some doubt. I believe, the initial gift was given from the book of Genesis, and that God gives man the free will to think and...
Sir, the free will excuse doesn't apply here. The only thing that applies here is whether or not life is created at God's will.
Okay, it is created at God's will.
Is life created only at God's will? Is God the only one who can create life?
Okay, I believe that God gave man the gift some time ago. And
Sir, I mean, it's a yes or a no question. Is God the only one who can create life?
I would say initially yes, but man's choice was free.
Sir, no, it's not initially yes. It's a yes or no question. Is God the only power who can create life? Yes or no?
I'll have to say yes to that.
Well, sir, how could God possibly take part in sin?
Okay, he doesn't. He gave man his choice.
Sir,
yes?
Sir, if life is being created in the act of what you would refer to as sin, then God is in cahoots with the devil.
No.
That's right, sir. God is not in cahoots with the devil. That would be an utter impossibility because God is good and perfect and incapable of sin. So therefore, God could not conceivably in any shape, manner, or form be creating the miracle of life during the act of sin, could he, sir?
Oh, the miracle was given to us a long time ago.
Sir, God could not be creating the miracle of life during the act of sin, could he, sir? It's a simple question, sir, yes or no?
Cannot answer in one...
I beg your pardon, sir. It can be answered. You just don't want to answer it because, sir, you want to believe that sex is sinful. Because it's not your fault, sir. People have drummed that into your head, and you never bothered to sit down and stop to think about whether or not it made any sense.
Well, sex is not sinful. I agree with that. But
of course it's not sinful, sir.
But then again, out of wedlock and stuff like that, it is...
Sir, it doesn't make any difference if it's wedlock. If God is creating life. I mean, wedlock, sir, is only something between you and your community. It's not between you and God. It doesn't make any difference to God whether or not you utter some words and sign a document. The only thing that matters to God, sir, is whether or not you're a good human being. That's all that matters to God, not whether you sign a piece of paper, sir. That's not what makes ba-boom, ba-boom, good or not good.
Okay, I grant you the fact that marriage is man-made, but then again, a union between man and woman is something that's been back from days of old. That means a partnership between one and another.
That's only because it's convenient to men. That's the only reason we have marriage, sir. It's one way of getting the community to say, hey, look, you mess with my lady and the whole community's going to come down on your head, bozo.
Okay,
that's the whole purpose of marriage.
Okay, back in the old days, I'm yours, you're mine, that lasted more than what paper is today.
Well, sir, you see, that's beautiful. I love marriage. I'm a real strong supporter of marriage. I like to be married. I like to encourage people to be married. As a matter of fact, I think it should be a hell of a lot harder in this society to get unmarried once you are married.
True.
But whether or not you're married has nothing to do with sin. Marriage is a contract between two people in the community in which they live.
Okay, I believe...
It's a contract. It has nothing to do with God.
I believe it does, in a way, because a union between man and woman was back a long time ago. It was not in any papers, no signing of forms, no blood tests, no nothing. It was just a union between two people in this society.
I beg your pardon, sir. It was always done in front of the rest of the community. There may not have been a local paper in a small community, but it was always done in front of the community. The marriage vows have always been announced in advance in the churches. In some way, yes, but not like it is today. I'm just saying that during that time when it was done, it was, I would say, accepted in God's eyes and into the community. But we do agree, sir, aside from this fascinating discussion on the history of marriage, we do agree that it would be utterly impossible for God to take part in the act of sin, correct?
Yes, I would agree with that, yes.
And since God's the one who creates life, and life cannot be created without God's will...
we disagree on a small point, a little technicality, which is, I believe that we were given the gift of this gift a long time ago, and God gave us a choice how to use it. If we break the rules, then we have to answer to that.
Well, sir, you couldn't have possibly. I'm sorry, but you're offending me, and you're offending my concept of the spirit, the creative spirit, in saying that spirit, you call it God, it's fine with me, has turned its head and no longer pays any attention to the creation of life.
We slightly disagree.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Be good. Off it is to Clear Water. Hi, Clear. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
I just wanted to state something real quick. I believe in God, and the what I call God, that spirit that I believe in, doesn't judge anybody else for their beliefs. You know, and it's offensive to me when I listen to somebody make a blanket and arbitrary statement about the definition of what God is and who God is and what God does, because it's just not true. And I know it's not true because it's not true for me. So it's no longer an absolute statement. You know, I believe that God is involved in the creation of life. Real simple. And I don't see where the big problem comes in.
What problem, sir?
Well, the discussion about if God's involved in the creation of life and sex is a sin, then how can God be involved in the commission of a sin, and therefore God can't be involved in the creation of life?
Well, sir, I'm sorry. You know, most of our laws are based upon what is usually referred to as a moral code, which is attributed to God. We have many laws against sex.
Yeah, but those aren't God's laws against sex.
Well, that's what I'm trying to point out to people, sir, is that I don't really believe there's anything in our concept of God that would indicate that he has anything against sex outside of marriage.
I don't think God
or
really
sex
has
of any
a lot
age.
against much of anything, really. I think that it's each of our own right and privilege to accept that belief or not to accept it as we choose. And God doesn't go around and boing people on the head who believes in a different concept than somebody else says it's the way it should be. I mean, the God that I believe in doesn't do that. It just doesn't happen that way. And
you really have an interesting point there. I can't remember the last time I saw anybody boinged on the head by God. Seems like there are an awful lot of human beings, though, that go around boinging other people on the head for their beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't believe that God's speaking through, you know, and I'm not going to get down on any other particular group because I think everybody's entitled to their own beliefs about any way they want. But,
well,
you
at
know,
that point, I've got to wrap it up for this hour because I'm fresh out of time, but it's a good way to wrap it up. I thank you much. Don't go far. 2 hours yet to go.
I would say so. My son is. I don't know if all children are a gift of God or not. I guess they are.
Well, then again, how could you possibly receive a gift from God as a direct result of an act of sin?
I think that God's love is greater than the sinfulness of man.
But that doesn't say anything in relationship to the question that I've raised. How could you possibly receive a gift from God as a direct result of committing a sin? That doesn't make any sense. Isn't God smarter than that?
I think that God is smarter, but I don't think smarter than that in the sense that you think of it.
Oh, no, I beg your pardon. I believe God is far too smart to get caught in such a foolish trap as to be giving gifts as a direct result of sin. Therefore, I would suggest to you that whether or not you're married has nothing whatsoever to do with God and you're having sex. It's unimportant to God. It's a man-made prejudice, a man-made rule.
I don't know. I still don't quite follow you all the way on the
I'm sure God would
follow mine. So
I'm sure God would want you to have responsible sex. Okay, I'm sure that God would want you to have sanitary sex, which maybe is responsible sex too, especially in this day and age. But whether or not there had been some words uttered or a piece of paper filed with a town clerk, I doubt very much would have. I'm positive it would have nothing whatsoever to do with what God wanted. That's what man wants, which is fine and well. I mean, hey, I got no problem with that. I'm all in favor of marriage.
Okay, my definition as far as when is sex sin or not sin, I know some married couples that have sex together that I would consider that as sinful as a couple of people on the street, in the sense that I don't think that sex per se is either sinful or non-sinful. It is within the context of the within a loving, and I don't mean love in the sense of we think of as love in marriage, but I think is it a positive, caring relationship, or is it a I know couples that are married, but it's a matter. It's not a loving expression of love or caring. It is a dominating act rather than a caring act. And I think that sex between a married couple may be sinful or more sinful than a couple that isn't married. So my definition of relationship of sex and sin is probably different from the average person's.
Thank you very much.
You have a good day.
You too. Take care. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. 461-9352 in Pinellas. Don Richards standing by at the WFLA News Desk. Don, your reasons that I could give you to take your car to the Grand Prix Car Wash, and Lord knows I try every day to cover them all. Literally everything from the fact that, well, maybe you're concerned about the ecology. No, I'm not stretching a point here. I'm not stretching a point at all. Taking your car to the Grand Prix Car Wash is a definite statement that you do have concern. The water is recycled. They use less water. Maybe that's the motivating factor. Maybe the motivating factor would be that they use the finest products available. Or maybe the motivating factor would be that they're a service company. They know they're a service company, and they are dedicated to giving you the best in automotive care. The Grand Prix Car Wash. The best reason I know of to go there is that they want me to. They want my business. Not just this week, but every week. 3 locations to serve you in South Tampa, 3622 Gandy Boulevard, in Seminole, 10471 Park Boulevard, and in Clearwater, 1880 Gulf to Bay. That's right across the street from the high school. Tampa, hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Hi.
That a baby being born into sin that we were talking about a while ago, why would it? When my wife and I were getting married in the Catholic Church, we had to go to these interesting lessons for about 2 weeks.
Oh, I remember them well.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the biggie things was, number one, you had to sign a paper saying that children would be educated and brought up in the Catholic faith.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing was, immediately upon being born, or within a time frame judged by the priest, you had to have the child baptized.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, now, wait a second. I mean, why do we have to rush this? I mean, the baby's little, and I was a little naive about asking questions. And they said because the baby, while it's being born, as well as a joyous event, and everybody is happy, it is being born as a consummation of original sin that Adam and Eve placed upon the world, where their original sin was that was going to be man's burden they had to bear to have to bear children instead of children, I guess, coming out of the sky. And children being consummated and born under this original sin, they had to be baptized immediately to be brought to be cleansed of their original sin.
Mm-hmm.
I was scratching my head for a long time about that, but see, well, I don't exactly agree with what I'm saying, what they are saying, but it goes along the line of what we were saying a while ago. How can God create something as beautiful as birth by using sin? Well, they're justifying it as being still part of the original sin, the apple falling off the tree.
No, that's being born with sin, not in sin.
Well, no, that they say that the baby is a sinner the minute it comes out of the womb, because it was born as part of the consummation of the original sin.
No, again, no.
Please.
It's very important what words we use here.
I understand.
They are saying the baby is born with sin.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Not a sinner, since obviously
the death of the preacher up there screaming at me. But they basically started the same thing, that everything you did up to the point where you got up to the altar or baptized in the river, you were a sinner in doing sin. But that's just a thought thrown out there. That was really puzzling me when we first talked about the Catholic Church.
I thank you much, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Be good. I appreciate it. 4:40 the time. Gary McHenry, world famous Yahtzee. Gary, you going to be at the Yahtzee, Tampa Bay?
Oh, sure, Bob.
Yahtzee playing Foxes Association.
Sure, Bob. Sure, I'm going to be there. I especially since you scheduled it while I'll be doing traffic. Yeah, sure, Bob.
Oh, gee, darn! I hadn't thought of that, Gary.
I'm sure it slipped your mind, right, Bob?
Yeah, you don't mind if I give the lessons, do you?
I hope the weather's bad Thursday.
Okay, well, just how's traffic, Gary?
Then I'll be on the ground. I think you planned it this way.
How's traffic?
We have one accident 580 in Countryside reported in Clearwater and another in something.
What's that?
That God perhaps is not perfect.
God isn't perfect, sir?
Or maybe he's not totally perfect. Maybe he made a few mistakes.
Oh, really? How's that?
Well, I can't find much use for the fly and the cockroach, so that must be a mistake, and also a big fat pig like you, so he must have made a mistake.
A big fat pig like me. That, by the way, the guy sat on the phone for well over 30 minutes to call me a big fat pig. He would also have us believe that he truly loves God. he would also have us believe that God is responsible for everything in this world, including me. And then, of course, he would also have us believe that God is imperfect. Oh, really? He doesn't believe in God. He doesn't love God. He's just a moron. Clearwater, hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, fine.
All right, I'm a first-time caller.
Great.
I found your subject very interesting today. All your subjects have been interesting. What was the question now?
You must have missed the Wang Dang Doodle Shake show.
I think it is in the water. It's got to be. Was it sinful to have a child outside of marriage? Was that correct?
In essence, yeah. I don't see how it could be.
Well, it isn't. What is sin? What is sin?
Well, sin seems to me, the older I get and the more I look at it and the more I read the book, sin seems to me to be a situation where it's man's prejudice. It's man's, what makes man uncomfortable is sin.
It's man-made. It's in the eyes of the beholder.
What it sure looks like.
I wanted to ask you a question, among others.
Mm-hmm.
If you owned a beautiful piece of property, and it had a beautiful dwelling on it that was immaculate, and everything perfect, and some tenants came by that wanted to, if you said, all right, you may move in, you may take over my land, and treat it well. I'm going on a little visit elsewhere. I want you to take care of my property, and you may live here for as long as you wish. All right? You come back. Now, you're the landlord. You own the place. You come back. Not that you've ever gone anywhere, because you keep looking in now and then when they don't know you're there. And you find the place totally trashed. You find your trees cut down. You find the beautiful lake and river, pond, whatever, full of beer cans, wine bottles, just everything. The people that have multiplied greatly, they're living all over the place. And they all squabble among each other. And I'm right, no, I'm right, you're wrong, blah, blah, kill, kill, hate, hate. And you have come back as the owner of this property, and you say, what have you done? And they all blame it on somebody else. What would you do? What would you do?
What would I do?
What would you do if you came back and found this way?
Gee, I can't begin to imagine.
Huh?
I can't begin to imagine.
Would you be angry?
Oh, I think I would.
You would?
I'd probably send down some bolts of lightning if I could. And
right.
Little things like that. Maybe a plague. I don't know.
What if this was your own children that did this?
What's the point?
I think we're about to get a big eviction notice.
A big eviction notice?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be delivered by the sheriff. We have trashed everything. We have trashed our beautiful earth that we were given responsibility to take care of. And you were talking about the Bible, of who wrote the Bible and so on. It's written by man. Much of it has been inspiration from on high.
Boy, I don't know. I don't see an awful lot of inspiration in there, man.
The one message that came through, no matter who interprets the Bible, our Bible, the Koran, or whichever, there are many others out there that have been inspired by the same source, because there is only one God. But he touches into many, many people's lives.
I thank you very much. Gee, that's almost like that. I was listening this past weekend to one of these radio preacher kinds of people who was telling me how much he loved me and how much he loved humanity, and took call after call after call, knocking other people's religions. It was just astonishing. Larg, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Hi.
Listen, if we accept your very well thought out and extremely interesting hypotheses that a baby is a gift from God, and God wouldn't have anything to do with sin, then how do you explain a baby conceived from a brutal rape?
How do I conceive a baby?
How do you explain?
Well, you see, sir, I don't believe that God has anything to do on a day-to-day basis with the way this world is conducted. I am simply taking the generally held beliefs of people, the generally held conceptions of God. You see, I would be what you would refer to as a deist who does not have a personal God.
And I agree with you.
In terms of, how is the baby conceived in rape? Well, I don't believe in sin. I don't think there is a devil. I don't think there is a Satan. If I did believe in sin, if I did believe in a force of evil, then I would have to attribute it to something, because I do believe in cause and effect. So therefore, there would be a devil.
But certainly, Bob, for those folks who believe that in God and that a baby is a gift from God, they cannot sensibly believe that a baby conceived from a very brutal, violent rape can be a gift from God. That's inconsistent.
Well, I don't see how that's inconsistent, though, with what I said, and what I'm saying is that sex is not a sin.
Well, rape, though, would be defined as a sin.
Rape would be defined as a sin?
Under the typical held beliefs.
I'll tell you what, I've got to take a break here. Can I put you on hold? We'll come back and talk about this?
Sure.
All right, on the hold we go with line 6. Let me write that down, because I always do it. Don Richards standing by. Okay. Well, the question that you raised, what about the life that is conceived in the course of a rape, or I suppose any other type of sexual crime? That's something that the religionist has to struggle with, isn't it?
Yes. But if we accept the premise that you put forward, that all human life is a gift from God, the commonly held belief is that a violent, brutal rape would be a sin. Then God would this would conflict with your premise, which is very interesting, by the way, that would make God a partner in a sin. Would it not?
Well, my premise is I boiled it down to one of three things that I suspect we would have to live with. One, I said God is in cahoots with Satan, which is obviously absurd. Could not possibly be. Two, God has nothing whatsoever to do with the creation of life on a day-to-day basis, or with lists of sins and so forth and so on. Or three, the third possibility is that sex is not sinful. Now, I think it has to boil down to one of those three. Obviously, the first and the second, that second one seems to make more and more sense, doesn't it?
That depends on your perspective. For an atheist, the second one makes a lot of sense.
Well, I don't think you have to be an atheist for that, sir.
Well, no, but for an atheist, it makes a lot of sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of other people, too, besides atheists.
I doubt
the atheist, first of all, the atheist isn't even going to take part in the conversation, because the atheist is just like the blind believer. He says, bull, there ain't nothing to talk about, man. God didn't say it. I didn't read it. And that's all there is to it. He's the exact antithesis of the blind believer. He's not even going to take part in that conversation. He couldn't care less. It's the rest of us, those of us who are somewhere in between, who are searching for the truth, that would take part in that conversation.
Well, some of us would converse with you for the pleasure of it, regardless of our religious beliefs.
Because I would hope that even if you may think that I am misguided, that you're still trying to find the truth. Aren't you?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I think that's part of life.
I mean, I certainly don't pretend to have any hold on the truth. I have some very strong convictions that I'd be only too happy to share with you and tell you how I came upon them.
Me too.
But I still, the only reason I would want to discuss, if I thought I had the truth, then I would have nothing to discuss.
That's right. I have no knowledge. I only have opinions.
And I thank you much for them.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Good talking with you, Bob.
One line available. Oops, I'm sorry. There are two lines available, both in Pinellas, 461-9352. 461 WFLA. Please don't send me pamphlets when I say I'm searching for the truth. I've already eliminated that. Zephyr Hill. Zephyr, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Well, good afternoon.
Hi.
I don't feel that when we're talking about the a birth being a gift as such, I feel it's more of a cause and effect. We know what causes it. And whether it's whether the birth is a result of a love act or the result of a rape, we know what causes it.
Right.
Fertile female, fertile male, the time is right, and bingo. So you can't call an unfortunate victim of rape, is that a gift?
Well, it all depends on whether or not you believe that life can only exist at God's will.
Right. Well, and that's
or life can only be created at God's will.
At God's will, right. And that's, the secret is their creation. Where did all this come from? We talk about the Bible. I firmly believe that the Bible was indeed written by men, and I think that, as one of the other callers suggested, that it may have been written to keep people of old in line, or to try and explain things to which they have no answers.
Well, frankly, to this day, religion is used for such purposes. I mean, to this day, even to a degree in this country, religion is used to keep people under control, to keep people satisfied, to give them some hope when they otherwise have no hope. It is frequently shamelessly used by the power elite.
Absolutely. I, like you, raised in my younger years in Catholic church.
Do you want to continue it after the news, or... Because I've got to go.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Line 2 goes on hold. One more hour yet to go. Please, whatever you do, don't venture very far. I can't remember what you were talking about. Can you bring me up to speed?
Gee, thanks a lot. I must have really been interesting,
No, we had just started talking.
No, I understand. No. We were talking about the baby thing and being a gift and so forth. And I started to say that I was raised in Catholic church. And was, taught the thing about the babies being born with original sin, and what happens, if a poor little baby dies before he's baptized, well, then he goes into limbo, wherever the heck that is.
Right.
Remember that. The thing that I often wondered about, as we're talking about this, is when you're talking about sin, in the Catholic Church, you would call mortal sin, which, a mortal sin is like, being sensitive to the electric chair, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst. But I often wondered whatever happened to all the poor people that ate meat on Friday when that was a mortal sin. And then they changed it. And they decided now it's okay. You can eat meat on Friday.
Of course, well, it's one of the great problems of not just the Catholic Church, but of religion across the board. It's constantly changing. Things that were no-nos last year are, kind of okay this year, and next year are going to be just honky-dory.
Did they let the poor souls out, though?
They talk about absolutes, moral absolutes. Well, there's nothing less absolute than organized religion.
Or if you believe in the Adam and Eve theory, if Adam and Eve had one child and had two children, if they were the only two to start with, and it had to be incestuous from there, right?
It would seem to me.
And that's what I've never really been able to understand.
You see, what I don't understand is I have utterly no problem whatsoever with accepting that there is some form, some creative force, some supreme being, some superior beings
that we just totally don't understand.
Exactly. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But where I have a major problem is why I've got to accept this incredibly silly book that contradicts itself, says things that cannot be, and in essence ends up painting a picture of a monster, irrational God.
Well, you know what they say? They say that religion is like a lift in the shoe, and if you feel a little short and need a boost, that's fine, but if the shoe don't fit, please don't try and make me wear it.
Okay with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, look, I hate to run, but I got to go.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh, one other thing.
Yeah.
We need to get you back on noon to 3. There's just too many interruptions.
Thank you much. It's really the same number of interruptions, I promise you.
Honest to goodness?
It really is. They are longer.
Maybe they're just longer.
But it's the same number.
Okay. All right, partner. Bye.
Take care. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. 2 lines open. 990-WFLA. Bartow. Hi, Bart. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob. How you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Been holding a while, but I had to
I know. It's been a long time, and I appreciate it.
Just to talk about your argument, and I think I can boil it down very simply in terms of if you have a good product, does that mean that the actions that it took to create it are necessarily good? Or another way to say it is the end justify the means. And I think we'd all say not necessarily in every case does the actions lead to a good outcome.
Yeah, but you see, you're trying to compare mere mortals with gods, and I don't think that's fair.
Well, no, that's what I'm getting to, and I'll even go back further, is I think it depends on the intent of those individuals. As a caller said previously, if you have a rape, that results in a child. It's a beautiful human being. It's a gift from God, but the act that beget that child was obviously, I think we'd all say, was wrong, and then would God, if he's a loving, merciful person, would have had nothing to do with that act.
Well, of course, God, he would not have had anything to do with it. He would not have been able to have anything to do with it.
That's what I'm saying, is that product is really independent, of the act that created it. And that's where, to go back to your original question, is everything in the Bible necessarily then true? And I was always taught that, the Bible is a historical book. It's some poetry. It's some pornography in there, too. And it was written by men who was supposedly inspired by God. And you have to read the Bible with that approach.
But where is the inspiration from God? What is in the Bible that is an inspiration from God?
I think we would say something like, you should love your man as you, or, love yourself, or love your fellow man as you love yourself.
That's common sense.
That's common sense, right.
That's not inspiration.
I agree with you. But, by the same token, I think when you read something that Ezekiel saw a flaming bush flying above the ground, you'd go, well, that's, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. And this is where you get into the whole point of you have to take what's written down, think about it, self-examination, find what fits. And I saying you pick and choose, basically I think that's what you come down to. Some of the things that are written that, Christ said, you have to either take it on faith that he said it and believe it, and if he said, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, then you shouldn't do it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that sex outside of marriage is bad. You have to look at the intent, because there's other passages in there that probably say something to the effect, and I'm not a Bible expert, that,
whoa, wait a second now. You see, I would basically tend to agree with you that sex outside of marriage is bad. But there's a big difference between bad and sin.
Well, I didn't say that sex outside of marriage was bad.
Well, I did.
Okay, but I don't necessarily say that sex outside of marriage is bad. It can lead to a lot of problems.
That's why it's basically bad. Not that I haven't done it.
Yeah, and not that a lot of people have. It can get you into a lot of problems. Maybe that's why if God truly said that we shouldn't have sex outside of marriage, that was the reason for it. It's caused a lot of people a lot of problems. Wade Boggs is a big example. But
got him a standing ovation yesterday, I understand. Fenway Park.
Maybe we'll all get one day. But you have to look at the intent. If two people have sex outside of marriage, they care for each other, they love each other, whether or not they beget a child is unimportant. I don't think that act is bad in and of itself. And that's why you have to go back and look at intent. You
see, there's the problem, though, with the Bible. There's the problem with religion, because it does not allow for any other considerations here. It's everything is black, everything is white, and the world is gray.
Well, that's where I think I disagree with you a little bit, because there is some, I think the Ten Commandments, which everybody would say or tend to agree is the authoritative word from God.
40% of them are irrelevant.
Oh, well, one of them says, thou shalt not kill, right? Now, to me, that's black and white. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, but I went to Catholic school. There's also, later on down the road, it says, I think Jesus says, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. Mm-hmm. Well, Caesar could be, thought of as a government. The government says it's okay to kill somebody if they murder. Well, to me, that's a contradiction. And I think you have to look, you have to read the whole book. And unfortunately, many of us don't. And it's just like a set of laws in the state of Florida. There's ambiguity. There's courts out there to decide that. And in this case, when there's ambiguity in the Bible, or room for interpretation, if you will, then you, the individual, has to sit down and think, what makes sense in this situation?
Well, that was something really heavy that you just said. I don't think even Lassiter would have gone so far as to try to compare the Bible and the civil code in the state of Florida.
Well,
I think the Bible makes a hell of a lot more sense than the civil code in Florida.
Well, it does, but I'm just pointing out that there are sets of rules there in the Bible, and there are sets of rules there that we live by day to day, and we have to have people interpret those laws for us. And I think you have to do the same thing with the Bible. It's interpretation. Unfortunately, some people stick to the, exactly as you said, black and white.
And that's really what it ought to be if indeed it was God's Word, but it couldn't possibly be God's Word because of the fact that it is open to interpretation.
Well, I think God said a lot of different things. And I think you have to, we don't live, as you said, in a black and white society or world, and you have to take that if it's all God's Word and apply it.
Isn't it strange that God didn't realize that we don't live in a black and white world? Because apparently he didn't, if that's the book that he left behind.
I don't know if it's a problem so much, because I don't look to that as the sole.
Well, the only time it becomes a problem, my young friend, is when people try to inflict the views of the Bible on you and I, such as in laws and prohibitions against sex outside of marriage.
If that's the case, we should all be stoning those people who are fornicators. But it doesn't happen.
Speaking of sex outside of marriage, I've got to run because Gary McHenry is standing by with a WFLA traffic report. And Gary, how are things going in your life?
Thank you for not saying, speaking of stoned fornicators. Terrific. Actually, Bob, things really couldn't
action, and it's incredible lightweight. The Auric, the one that picks up pet hair in a single stroke and dirt that other vacuums leave behind, but you still haven't bought yours yet. You need wait no longer. Buy one Auric XL show model for only $259.95 and get our 4-pound companion vacuum. That's the Buster B show model, absolutely free, plus a year's supply of bags for both. Now that's a total savings of $252. But quantities are limited. All show models are on sale. They're priced to go. And they're covered by our full 2-year warranty. Buy your Auric show model now for only $259.95. Receive the Buster B companion vacuum show model absolutely free. I believe in the Auric. If I didn't, I wouldn't be telling you about it. See the Auric at the following Auric Floor Care Center locations: 13230 North Dale Mabry in Tampa. The telephone number 264-1937, or 2454 McMullen Booth Road in Clearwater. The telephone number there, 726-0523. You've got to take the old Auric out for a demonstration, my friend. You got to run it around the floor once or twice, and then you'll understand why it is such an incredible vacuum cleaner. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Hi, Tampa. Oh, pity poo, Tampa couldn't hold. Such is life. Off we go now to Largo. Hi, Larg. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi. While I was waiting on the phone,
a
few callers made attributions to brutal rape.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point something out before I talk about why I called here. I don't see how anyone who loves could make a judgmental distinction between a tiny child of love or of rape. Now why I called here. Like you would say, if what you're saying is true, that the creation of whatever, body or soul, is a patent act of God who is only good.
That's not what I'm saying, sir. It's what people believe.
All right, and that sex, therefore, must not be a sin, because God shall have no part in sin, and that, to go onward, slightly more than half, by probability, of all our morals are not those of God, but of man. Now, if what you're saying is true, then we must finally and eventually come to accept that it is for us to decide, and that it is our own humanly duty to decide good, to decide just, or to at least to decide with thought. Now, Bob, I hope you don't mind me calling you Bob. If what you're saying is true, then we are, in fact, God.
No, sir, I think I just mind you calling me. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me, before we get into the discussion of the day, say again, thank you for helping me quit smoking by what your advertisement has done. It's been great.
How long has it been?
Let's see. March 7th was my birthday. It's been a little over 2 months now.
All right, you got to wave the shade.
Interesting thing, Bob. You know, at times you mention that you think about a cigarette daily.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even thought of one. I sit around people who smoke all day long, and I don't even miss it.
I'm now starting to go 2 and 3 and 4 days in between cravings.
Well, that's great. And doesn't it feel good?
Oh, you're telling me?
No more phlegm.
You know what? I just had I promise I'll give you as much time as you need. But I just had a little cold a few weeks ago, and people told me as I was starting to get it, they said, you'll get over it much faster now that you don't smoke. Damned if I didn't.
Well, you know, the interesting thing, I was wondering why I had gained about 5 or 6 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read the article the other day that nicotine cuts down and tears up the carbohydrates in the body or the calories in the body, and it burns it up.
I didn't put on any weight, though. I don't know about that article.
Well, I needed it. I was so thin, I needed it. I had to run around in the shower to get wet as it was. So I basically needed the weight, and it's been good to enjoy food as well. Now the issue at hand. First of all, I definitely agree with your belief systems, and I really admire you being able to stand up and take the calls that you do take. And I think that all sin is a form of guilt, and all guilt is a form of fear, and all fear is a form of guilt. And like you, raised in the Catholic Church, raised in a variety of different religions, and moving on, I hold basically the same belief systems that you hold today, and I hope my wife doesn't hear the Auric, because if she hears the Auric, I think we're going to be in trouble.
Get her one.
Isn't that good, Bob?
It really is. to this, my goodness, if I only get to talk about the Grand Prix, too. The thing is so lightweight, and it's such a suction machine. It is astonishing. It truly is the first time you walk around the floor with it.
Well, we have two little rugrats that run around and get everything dirty and filthy, and she's constantly going down and renting the equipment to redo the carpets to get them clean again. The Orc does that, huh?
It sure does.
Well, I'll have to give it a try. And Bob, listen, thanks again.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Darn, if only we could have gotten him on the Grand Prix car wash. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Don Richards standing by at the WFLA News Desk. Don? Places with a magic wand, and it's one of those places where you put your quarters in, and you don't quite get your car washed, but you can put in another pocket full of quarters and kind of finish the job and then have all that time left over just standing there holding the magic wand waiting for the water to shut off. And if you're not really careful, like Gary a couple of weeks ago, you can put your window out with that damn thing. I tell you, sometimes it just kind of dances around like a snake. It's the kind of place that a guy like Gary McHenry would get his car washed. I believe it's out in Brandon, the Magic Wand or something. A lot of people, though, go to the Grand Prix car wash. It's much better. No magic snake to put your window out. As a matter of fact, they don't even have a vending machine there. They do offer stuff for sale and free coffee and that kind of stuff, and they'll do a good job on your car, and they'll do it with top-notch products, and they won't let you leave until you're satisfied. Maybe not quite as much of an adventure as that place out there in Brandon, but at least you'll get your car washed, and you'll get it done well, and you won't get your shoes wet. The Grand Prix Car Wash, 3 locations, 3622 Gandy Boulevard in Tampa, 10471 Park Boulevard in Seminole, and 1880 Gulf to Bay in Clearwater. The Grand Prix Car Wash. It's also a McHenry free car wash. I don't quite know what happened. We seem to have had a massive drop-off. I mean, we're talking about literally a total, complete drop-off. I'll give you the telephone numbers. I have utterly no shame. Only 19 minutes left to go. 461-9352 in Pinellas, 461-WFLA in Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. What a perfect time. What an incredibly perfect time to bring you up to speed in case you weren't around in the first hour. I can do so with reasonable brevity. We all say things like, everything in this world has a cause. Well, if that's true, and if sin exists, then sin must have a cause. Well, that cause must be Satan or the devil. Can we all agree on that? I think so. We say things like, God is good. God is perfect. We say things like, babies are a gift from God. We say things like, fornication outside of marriage is a sin, or at least some of us do. We say things like, conception is the creation of life. We say that only God can create life. We say that life can only begin if God so desires, if God wills it to begin. Well, if you put all of that together, then you can only come up with one conclusion. And that is that sex is not sinful. Because sex results in babies. And babies are gifts from God. Babies are miracles. And there's no possible way that a miracle could be the direct result of sin, is there? There's no possible way that a gift from God could be the direct result of sin, is there? 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. St. Petersburg. Hi, St. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you talking about God and believing in Him and stuff.
Yeah, I hear your radio in the background. You want to turn it down right now?
Turn it on?
Turn it down.
Turn it down?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Catholic, and I'm from up in Massachusetts, and, you know, I believe in God, right?
You're Catholic. What's the name of the Pope right now?
What's the name of the Pope?
Yeah.
Pope John Paul II.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I believe that what created... Well, I heard, like, the last time I was listening to this show is revolution, or what God created, or who created mankind. Right?
Well, take care there. I really enjoy your call, Wire. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Hello, Tampa.
Hello, am I on?
That's what I just said.
Okay, so we're talking about sin today. Very interesting, Bob. So what have we found out, besides the fact that God gives good gifts to evil people as well as good?
God gives good people to evil, or
No,
good gifts to
God
evil people,
gives-
so I'm an evil man?
God gives...
Are you suggesting, madam, that I'm an evil man?
I never...
Is that what you're
I
suggesting?
never mentioned your name,
Is that
Bob.
what you're suggesting, man? Are you who are so filled with God's grace are suggesting that I'm evil? What have I done that's evil, lady?
I never mentioned your
What
name.
have I done that's evil, lady? Have the courage of your convictions, at least, huh? At least have the
What
courage
did
of
I
your
say
convictions.
to you?
Here
What
I
did
am
I
trying to
say?
have an adult conversation, which is a little bit more than you can deal with, because obviously you're not an adult. And the
No,
best thing that you can do is try to call up
I
and
said God
call me
gives
an
good gifts to
evil man.
evil people
Well,
as well as good.
Who's an evil person that's been the recipient of God's gifts, man? Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about, lady? You got 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, gone. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
First time caller, long time listener.
Uh-huh.
Bob, all unrighteousness is sin, Bob.
Yeah, I don't want you talking in circles to me. Either deal with
I'm
what I'm
not
talking
talking in
about,
circles.
or I'll go into somebody else. I'm not that desperate for calls.
What?
You heard me.
Bob, sex is sin out of marriage.
No,
marriage
it's
was
impossible,
created by
sir.
God.
No, that's utterly impossible.
No, it isn't,
No,
Bob.
I'm sorry, sir, because you see, if that sex outside of marriage were to result in a birth, that birth is what, sir? It's a gift from God, right?
Right.
So, unfortunately, sir, now you're telling me that God's in cahoots with the devil?
No.
Why are you calling? Why are you calling up my show, sir, and insulting God?
To you, Bob.
Why are you insulting God on my show,
No,
sir?
I'm not. Let me explain
Well,
it
I
to
beg
you.
your pardon, sir. You just got finished telling me that a gift from God can be
Right.
the direct result of sin.
No.
No, sir.
Bob.
I don't want you on my show insulting God.
Oh, you go ahead. Wait a minute, I'm a first time caller now. You
So what?
So let
I
me
don't
say
care.
this.
And sir, there's no special gift for somebody to call the show for the first time and insult God.
No, I'm not insulting God.
Sir, if you're telling me
You won't let me
that a
finish. I'm not judging
miracle
anything. You won't let me finish.
miracle from God is the direct result of sin, then you're insulting God.
No, I'm not, Bob. Bob, if you put a battery in the car, Bob, and the battery cables are made for the battery, they fit, right?
What's that have to do with anything, sir?
The Lord put in your body and her body the proper organ, Bob, that you can give birth. That's what it means. He gives the gift.
Sir, is there any possibility that life can be created by anyone or any power beside God?
No.
Is there any possibility, sir, that life could be created when it was against God's will?
No.
Well, then, sir, what you're telling me is that a life is being created by an act of sin.
No.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, sir.
No.
If sex outside of marriage results in a pregnancy, then life is being created as a direct result of sin.
No.
Well, yes, sir. I'm sorry. Sit down and think about what you're saying. When you've thought about it, call me back. Oh, is this really true? My goodness, we haven't chatted with him in ages. Scott in Clearwater, otherwise known as the Weasel in the Dress. Scott, how you doing?
All right, how you doing, Bob?
Oh,
the
great.
Bible calls you a wicked, depraved sinner.
No, really?
Yeah, and Jesus said that if you even look on a woman and lust after her, you've committed adultery in your heart.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know for a fact that Jesus said that. I wasn't there. Were you, Scott?
No, I wasn't.
In other words, it has been reported that
You're
that's
my
what
age,
Jesus said.
Bob.
Well, then, Scott, let's. It is reported that that's what Jesus said. Let's keep it
But
in
we are
proper
talking about
perspective
sin here, so let's talk about what Jesus said about sin.
Uh huh.
That if you look on a
No,
woman...
let's talk, Scott. We'll do that after you address what I've said about sin. Is it possible, Scott, for life to be created without God's will? Is that possible, Scott?
No, he's the author of life.
Okay. So therefore, Scott, is it possible for life to be created as a direct result of sin?
Yes, it is.
Well, then, in other words, God is in
biblical,
partnership. God is in partnership with Satan. God is an active participant in sin. Is that what you're telling me, Scott?
No.
Well, that's strange. It's what I just heard you say.
No, I'll give you a biblical story.
I don't want your biblical story, Scott. I want you to deal with the reality of what I've brought up.
Well, it is reality.
Instead of telling me, Jesus says in the Bible this, that, and the other. No, deal with what I've talked about, Scott.
I am. I'm going to give you a biblical story.
Uh-huh.
It's real fast. King David, was out on his veranda, apparently, looking down on a woman named Bathsheba taking a bath. He lusted after her. He sent for her. He had sex with her, and he had a child named Absalom out of this sinful act.
Yeah.
Well, Absalom died as a result of the sin that he had with Bathsheba.
So, in other words, only God sometimes punishes sin.
No, he always punishes
Always punishes sin.
Yeah.
The wages
in
of
other
sin is
so in
death.
other words, the offspring of this sinful relationship, which of course was a creature created by God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a second. Now, how is that possible? How could God create something out of sin? Huh? How I don't quite understand how a good, loving, merciful God could create a living thing. Can I put you on hold, Scott?
See, David,
let me put you on hold because I got to go to Don Richards, who's standing by the WFLA news desk. I'd sure love to clear up this one, Don. Two Pinellas teens. I just do not get into group activities. I prefer to do things primarily by myself, so that's okay. There are a lot of people that are into group activities. They don't like to do things by themselves. Been telling you about the program that Dr. Robert Sobel put together, the Quit for Life program, the program to get people off of cigarettes. I did mine with just Mary and I. But there are a lot of people that don't want that kind of pressure. They would like the comfort of having a group of people. Well, why not put together a group of people and quit smoking? Hey, if you're a smoker, you probably know other smokers. If you're a smoker, you probably would prefer not to be. And those people that you know who are smokers, they would probably prefer not to be. So why not consider putting together literally a party to quit smoking? 2 one-hour sessions, a week apart, conducted by Dr. Sobel at your home, your office, your plant, whatever. 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, all quit smoking at the same time. It can work. Let me give you the telephone number, 787-5530. 787-5530. Quit for Life with Dr. Robert Sobel, okay? Lakeland, hi, Lake, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
You're talking to me?
Yep.
Okay. In the first place, God is not in power right now. This is Satan's world. Don't you read the Bible? Satan has control for 12 more years, 11 more now.
Right, sir. I prefer to talk to people who are not out at the home. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah. Who's this?
We mean, who is this? Who the hell are you calling?
Well, I was calling the station manager. You
were calling the station manager, then you should try the business line.
Well, we're going to boycott your sponsors. That's what we're going to call your sponsors.
Oh, you're going to call my sponsors, really?
Yeah.
Why,
yeah.
sir?
Because if Bob Lassiter does not stop knocking God and Jesus Christ, there's 11 of us so far.
Sir, I don't believe.
We are going to listen to every sponsor that comes on this station. We're calling him on the telephone, and we're going to complain to them about what you're doing.
Sir, who the hell? First of all, who are you going to get to dial the phone for you that many times? And secondly, sir, I don't believe that Jesus Christ's name has been mentioned except by my callers.
Yesterday you did.
No, sir. Yesterday I didn't do religion.
There's somebody on there that says it was a bunch of crap. Bob Lassiter
somebody on there.
We are going to call every sponsor that you put on your show.
Sir, I didn't do religion yesterday.
Every sponsor that you put on your show, if you don't stop knocking God and Jesus Christ, we're calling every sponsor on your show.
I don't knock God or Jesus Christ. I knock.
I'm going to hit you where it hurts. It's in your pocket.
Arrogant people like you, sir, who make
I'm hitting you where it hurts. It's in your pocket.
Jesus Christ. Monsters. That's who I knock, sir. People like you.
Okay, fine, but we're going to boycott your sponsors, and we're going to call them and tell them to.
Are you going to lie, sir?
You
going to lie to my
sponsors? Of course not. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
I don't have to lie.
Sir, you do have to lie if you want to say I knock God. I don't knock God, sir. I knock religion.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior?
Like you.
No, you don't do it, and you don't have to knock him to say it.
No, sir, I don't. I don't accept Jesus Christ as my Savior. As a matter of fact,
I'm not asking you to. I'm saying don't knock him, but don't knock the people that do.
As a matter of fact, sir, most of the people in the world don't.
Well, don't knock the people that do.
Sir, I'm entitled to my religion. Aren't you entitled to yours?
Why, of course, but don't knock. I'm not knocking yours, so don't knock mine.
Well, sir, I beg your pardon. You do knock mine.
I don't even know what your religion is. I'm not knocking it.
Well, sure you are, sir. You're trying to prevent me from practicing it. You're trying to prevent me from expressing my religious views by threatening me with a boycott.
Don't threaten my religion.
Well, sir, don't threaten mine.
I don't know what your religion is. How can I threaten your religion? You're threatening mine.
I'm not telling you that you can't practice your religion. You're trying to tell me that I can't practice mine.
But you're talking against my religion.
No, sir, I'm not talking against your religion. I'm telling you my views on religion.
You're saying that God is this and that and the other, and that is only an opinion. And
sir, am I going to go to hell if I don't accept Jesus Christ as my personal Savior?
That is my religion, but I'm not trying to whip it on you.
Am I going to go to hell if I do not accept Jesus Christ?
That is my religion belief, but I'm not trying to whip it on you.
Is that your belief, sir, that I'm going to go to hell?
If you don't have Jesus Christ your Savior, that's what it says in the Bible. I don't make up the rules, sir.
Well, sir, you see, now again, you're preventing me. You're knocking my religion because that's not what I believe.
I'm not trying to get you to believe my religion.
Sir, you just told me that's what's going to happen.
I'm not trying to... No, you asked me and I told you, but I'm not trying to get you to believe my religion.
Oh, come on, sir.
I'm not trying to get you to believe it. I'm just asking you to don't knock mine.
Sir, why would you threaten me with hell if you didn't want me to convert to your religion?
I don't want you knocking my religion.
Because you're trying to scare me into your beliefs, sir.
I'm not trying to...
I'm not trying to scare you into my beliefs, sir. All I'm trying to do is get you to think for a change.
I don't give a damn if you accept Jesus Christ.
You don't give a damn if
I don't give a damn if you accept Jesus Christ or not.
Sir, you're not a Christian.
Yes, I am.
You are not, sir, a Christian. Sir, would you like me to prove to you that you're not a Christian?
I figured I'd get your attention on that.
Sir, would you like me to prove to you that you're not a Christian? I will, sir, because apparently you haven't read the book.
Well, if you don't know enough about Christianity, tell me if I have or not.
If you had read the book, then you would know that Jesus says that you have to convert me. And you just said, I don't
have to convert you. The book does not say we have to convert you.
Sir, you haven't read the book.
We are cutting off the arms that offend us, too, and that includes you.
Cutting off the arms that offend you. I see. Oh, sir, you haven't even read the book. You're not a Christian, and you're calling me up saying I'm knocking you?
Yes, you are knocking the Christian religion.
You are not a Christian. You're right. You are not a Christian, sir. You are
No, you're the one that said it. I didn't say I wasn't a Christian.
You are a disgrace to Christianity, sir, because you do not follow the tenets of Christianity, which would compel you to convert me.
Bob, listen, one thing. If there's 1 ounce of truth in Christianity...
It ain't you.